welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzales. Happy No Collusion Monday.
Yay!
Finally.
Yeah.
The Mueller report is out. I think we can agree, can we not, that that is the top story of the day?
I think so.
Okay,
By
all
far.
right. So we've got a lot to unpack there, but first we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. I know that American Financing was a company that came and tried to work with Glenn before 2008. And Glenn said, hard pass.
Glenn is a very solid businessman. Said, no, I would not like to do any advertising for your company. Because well,
do not pay us.
Yeah, do not pay us any money for advertising. Well, I mean, his idea was pretty strong, though, because he had been on the air talking about how he was worried about the financial markets and the housing market in particular. And said, look, they're doing really bad things with these subprime mortgages. These mortgage companies are all going to collapse. I don't want to get in business with them. So he told them, he said, hey, if you survive this coming wave, then come back to me. Well, they did survive the wave. They came back to him. I mean, things like Lehman Brothers went out of business. American Financing came back and said, you know what, we're ready to come on board. How about it? And so Glenn looked into them and wound up doing advertising for them because he saw that they were solid. They knew what they were doing. They made promises, and they kept those promises. And as you've mentioned before, that they're salary-based, so they're not trying to lock you in and get little perks from a specific bank or anything like that. They don't have to worry about those commissions. They just come in and try to do the best job for you. They did that with me. They've done it with Glenn. They do a great job. Yeah. Looking for a home, it's a great place to go.
So you can go to AmericanFinancing.net or you can call 800-906-2440. All right, gentlemen. This has just been a bonkers day. I know later we will get to what's going on with Michael Avenatti, which is just another can of worms to open.
It's almost like today's the president's secret birthday.
So we were just discussing off air. We were just like, this has to be the best day of President Trump's life.
Right, and that's quite a statement because, first of all, the dude's a billionaire. He's had some good days. Second of all, how many supermodels has he been sleeping with? This is a guy who's had some awesome days. And yet here he is. I don't know how you could top this one. You have the Mueller thing, you got the Avenatti thing, and there's another thing tied to the Avenatti thing with Jesse Smollett. There's all sorts of stuff going on today. But yeah, this is a great day for the president. And one of the things that's left out of this is that, he had some sort of secret exclusive information in this entire Russia investigation which was he knew the entire time he didn't do it, right? So this is not a surprise to Donald Trump, I would think. It's not one of those things that's going to, bowl him over. He knew the entire time. You're always afraid that something's going to come out or they're going to, who knows, one of his underlings did something. But he knew, I think, that he didn't do it. The problem with Trump, of course, is he acts the same way whether he did it or if he didn't do it, right? He denied just as vociferously, things like this, the Stormy Daniels stuff when that was going on. He didn't know anything about it. Yeah. But that being said, this is a great day for Donald Trump, I think, because, it is an embarrassment for the media. And of course, that is the ultimate pleasure, I think, for Donald Trump, even talking supermodels. He likes the media failing even more than that. I was interested to see this, and I think there's a few lessons we can kind of take from it. First of all, this is shocking to, I think, everybody in the media and everybody on the left, but maybe Donald Trump just didn't do anything illegal. I know that's a disappointment. I think you should be happy about it, that your president wasn't doing something illegal with Russia. This should be a positive thing. But maybe he just didn't, and maybe that's an okay thing. He should be, all right.
Or maybe Mueller is in on it,
right.
He secretly is in with the Trump administration, and now he's covering for Trump.
Maybe. That's possible. But I think it's okay to come to the realization in which you just say, number one, the president just didn't do anything illegal. His family and the people close to him didn't. There were some things that went on, mainly lying to Congress and stuff, or to the FBI, that were crimes and some indictments. But generally speaking, it looks like he's pretty clean on this one. So that's number one. Number two, I think we can all look back at this now and say, you know what? Not a witch hunt. It really wasn't a witch hunt. Witch hunts, generally speaking, find their witches. It wasn't like in Salem they were looking around for witches and were like, oh, there's a real one. We found a real witch. The point of a witch hunt is you're looking for something that's not there and you still find it, right? The fact that Mueller went through this 2-year investigation and didn't find the witch is an indication that he wasn't on a witch hunt. When you're on a witch hunt, you find the witch. And I think that's a good thing for our system, right? The fact that they put somebody in they said was credible, both sides at the beginning agreed he was a credible guy. And it seems like he went through this in a way that was responsible, and even though the answer was, he didn't do anything wrong, that's what he came up with, and he was willing to come out with that.
I would definitely agree that I think that Mueller had nothing to do with a witch hunt. I think he was just there to do the job that he had to do. But I definitely think the media and certain members of the Democrats are actually on a real life witch hunt, like for real.
Totally.
Because like they're still not stopping. Like a lot of them are not. They're like, no, I want the full report. Well, why do you want the full report? You know that you actually cannot get the full report.
I think that's why.
You
do you think that that's why they're asking for it? Is just
Absolutely.
to say, well,
because
we
when you
never
don't get
saw
it,
the full report, so we can't say for sure whether what we were saying was accurate.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
The exact opposite of our system. Like, we know if we saw everything, he would be guilty. And he's guilty until everything comes out and he's proven innocent. It's like, well, no, that's not the way. You're supposed to be innocent until you're proven guilty. Right? Like, you can't just assume the things you haven't seen prove his guilt.
Yeah.
And so that part of it is, I think, ridiculous. And I think, like, we should also take a step back and think about whether this is the investigators' fault these last 2 years of just nonstop nightmare, or if the fault should lie somewhere else, and I would argue the media and the politicians on both sides of the aisle. Because, I mean, look at what the title is of this report. Do we happen to have that handy? I thought we had a graphic with it. Yeah, here it is. Report on the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. That's what the investigation was. It was not, hey, how do we find bad stuff about Donald Trump? It was not, hey, how do we exonerate Donald Trump no matter what? It was, hey, let's look at what Russia was doing. If it happened to be with Donald Trump, we want to know about it. If it happened to be with just a bunch of them trying to go on the internet and influence elections, fine. And I think after this whole thing, we land in a place in which we have 25 names of people in Russia who were actually doing this for real.
Which is an amazing report. If you want to go back and read it and just the specifics, they are so detailed.
Yeah.
Like tracking IP addresses, Bitcoin accounts. I mean, there's no question at all these Russians were involved with it.
And that's, that's not nothing. I saw some people commenting like, well, those people are going to go to prison. It's not what it's about. The information. I mean, sure, I'd love them to be in prison. However, like, what's important to me is going forward when we have a nice detailed playbook about what Russia tried to do in 2016, so we can see what that means for future elections. It could see what that means for China or other countries trying to do the same thing. Like, the information of an investigation that comes out and gets that sort of detail on the operations of influence operations in our elections is really important. And while like a lot of people are like, well, this is nothing. I think you could dismiss it as kind of nothing if you want, but is that true? I mean, like, what was the goal here? It's only nothing if your only goal was to take out Donald Trump, right? It's not nothing if your goal is to find the truth about Russia.
Well,
right?
I don't think there were many people who had that ultimate goal.
Yeah, well, one of them seems to be Mueller, right? And that's a good thing. I think the average person, that's what they really wanted. I mean, it became so salacious, and it was one of these things that every single news broadcast, every single night was coming up with every single twist and turn of this thing. And really, what value does it have? I mean, none. I mean, we all knew eventually this report was going to come out. And at that point, you have information to actually look at. We talked about this a lot on the show. When these things would come out, we'd discuss them briefly, and we'd hit the updates, and that, it's important that you're kind of informed on what's going on. But the way these cable news networks lived and died by every single twist and turn in this case is just not it's an unhealthy way to live your life. I mean, think about the approach that we recommended here, which was, hey, you keep up to date, but generally speaking, you're going to get this report at some point, and at that point, you're going to be able to judge it. There's no need to live and die and tweet every 5 seconds about the Mueller report. It's not out yet. And if you would have just waited and then looked at this report, you would have had the answer, and nothing would have changed in your life except you would have lost a lot of heartache throughout the last 22 months.
The fanaticism on whether he was going to be guilty on this, and so they're like half the time. I don't know if they're manufacturing information. I'm talking about mainstream media, or if they're just so giddy that they're going to get something really crazy so they can be the first ones to say it. I mean, there's been multiple instances where they've been caught being dead wrong on a lot of this stuff. But just the fanaticism and how they were looking forward to this, it seemed like how messed up in the head do you have to be? I mean, it's almost like the accusation has lost all of its meaning. Just seriously think about that. You are very giddy and hopeful that a sitting U.S. president conspired with a foreign government to undermine the United States of America. Why would you be giddy over that?
Right.
Yeah,
you should be dreading this day.
And I want to go ahead. We're talking about what they used to say, or what they've been saying for this entire 2 years. Let's take a look at a little bit of a flashback of that. Watch.
My takeaway is there's a very real prospect that he may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time.
Do you agree with Congressman Adam Schiff, who's going to be the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, that President Trump could be indicted and possibly face jail time after he leaves office?
Yes.
If we do the investigations, the information is there. We're fiddling while Rome is burning. This president needs to be impeached.
I wouldn't be surprised after all of this is said and done that some people end up in jail.
You know,
And I think they're shocked that the noose is tightening and that people might go to jail
you're exactly right.
for the rest of their lives.
I think they're all going to jail. Sean Hannity is obsessed with me. And I wrote to him, I said, I don't know if you're going to do very well in jail.
I mean, these are solid statements that they're putting out there. Adam Schiff, didn't he say at one point, he said that he had direct evidence or direct knowledge that Trump had done this?
It feels like they've all said that as well at one point.
You can't get any more bold than to say, I have direct knowledge that this occurred. And now all of a sudden the Mueller report comes out and that's not true.
They obviously had no information to back up what they were saying.
Nothing.
That's slanderous. That's insane. And this is not the only investigation that's complete. Let's count. There's been 3 investigations that all the findings have been the same. The Mueller report, the Senate intelligence, and the House. They've all come up with the same thing. There was no collusion. They've all said that.
Yeah.
So where the heck are people like Adam Schiff getting this other information from? Like, it's just such a blatant lie, and they've been caught red-handed doing it. It's absolutely insane.
You mentioned slander. What do you think that Trump would have a case if they continued? Because I've seen some of the news networks still continuing to push the narrative. Believe it or not, I know it sounds crazy, but even today, they're still continuing to push that narrative, the narrative that, well, he wasn't exonerated. They made it, if there's one thing they made very clear in this summary, it's that he wasn't exonerated.
On obstruction.
Right.
Is that what they're talking about? Or they're saying
yes.
the
It did say that. It did say that.
You could say that, but
Which
I still feel like that's a twist of exactly what we're dealing with.
Me and Stu, we were talking about this out there. I don't even say you can say that. Because if you looked at the case and if you can't prove that he obstructed justice, in our system, that means you're innocent.
Exactly. And that was what I said earlier when I did a podcast with Chad Prather. And that's kind of what I said too, is like, you can't prove that something didn't happen. Like, I could accuse you of anything I wanted.
Although they kind of said they did do it when it comes to collusion, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they were like, you know what? No, there's absolutely nothing there. Look, I think what they're saying in the report, if you really read it, I mean, it's 4 pages. It's worth your time to read the whole thing. You just spent $50 million on it, so you might as well read the 4 pages. I think what it says is, look, there are some things we're a little uncomfortable with. You know, I mean, most of the stuff he did in front of everybody. Like, I mean, he was legitimately like, on Twitter, like going after Michael Cohen, right? And Michael Cohen's going to testify, and like, this is just an example of this. But like, is that obstruction of justice? I don't know. He did it on Twitter. It's not like he was. If he did it on a secret phone call, right, to to his family, like maybe it would have been obstruction of justice. But he did it on Twitter, and it's like, I don't think that's obstruction of justice. But it's a weird world. I don't know how to even to measure that stuff at this point. Like when it comes down to it, it's one thing to say he didn't have any contacts with Russia. You can't prove that, of course, because you're never going to know for sure. But you can say, okay, we have absolutely no evidence. There were things that Trump probably did that he would like to, probably do another way if he had the opportunity again to do it, maybe people around him. So maybe there were things that kind of hinted at it. But honestly, if they had a case on obstruction of justice, they would have recommended going forward with that case. They didn't, because they didn't have the case. All they're just saying is, look, we can't completely exonerate him from that. However, how do you exonerate someone from something, obstruction of justice against what? Like, there's no crime. There's no underlying crime. Now you can, as we've seen with, for example, Papadopoulos or, even Roger Stone, right? Like those people, lied to the FBI, and there wasn't really an underlying crime there either. They were, God only knows why, just because like Roger Stone, lying is his first language. He lied to the FBI, and now he's going to get in trouble for it. You can get in trouble for lying, even though there isn't a crime underlying. But it's a high bar to clear. If the person is, your argument is essentially you're trying to obstruct justice to hide something, and you can't even tell us what the something is because there's nothing there. You've looked for the something and there's nothing. You're going to really go after the president on something like that? I mean, it does not seem like they have much of anything, and for some reason that seems to be disappointing to many in the media and certainly on the left.
Which I think would tell me, that would indicate to me that they hate one single individual man more than they love the country. Right? I mean, isn't that what it comes down to?
It does seem that way. I mean, if your reaction to seeing the president was exonerated over serious accusations of colluding with a foreign hostile power, and your reaction to that is sadness, you need to rethink your life.
Yes.
Like, your life needs to be turned around. You are obsessed with this person, and the media is. Every story, every day, everything has to be about Donald Trump. And, it doesn't have to be that way. There's help for you. It doesn't have to be that way.
Jason, I wanna save your comment, hold it, put it in your mind. We'll be back in a second. Before we get back into the conversation, two things. The first one is, yes, I am wearing a sticker on my dress. It is for my son because he asked me to wear a sticker on TV. So those of you who feel the need to tweet at me telling me that I forgot that I have a sticker on my shirt, not so. I know it's a sticker. It's a Minion, by the way. You're welcome. We also want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So I was in a car accident, 2013, and as a result of that, messed up my knee. That fixed itself eventually after surgery, but then I was left with some protruding discs, which, as you might guess, is not comfortable.
No.
In fact, it's just constant pain, just all the time, never ending. You go to sleep with it, you wake up with it, it affects your every life, or every minute of your life, and thought that there was no end in sight for that. And then I came over here to the Blaze and saw Glenn always talking about Relief Factor. It had worked for him, and so I started taking it, and it really works. It works for me as well. Nothing else had worked before, and plus I'm kind of a hippie, so all natural, drug-free stuff worked for me. Sorry, Stu. I know that hurts you.
I take your share of the drugs and ingest them.
But it's 100% drug-free, and it really tackles the inflammation in your body, which is, oftentimes the root cause of the problem. Find out if it works for you. It works for 70% of the people who try the 3-week quick start pack. They go on to keep ordering more. So the odds are in your favor that it will work for you, and it's only $20, $19.95. So if it doesn't work for you, you're out $20. But if it does work for you, it's life-changing. Take it from me. You can go to relieffactor.com, or you can call 800-500-8384. Jason, go ahead. Did you remember?
I did.
Remember your comment? All right, we'll talk about Mueller.
I was just about to say that the only thing that I really like, so in the process, just so we know, what we got on Friday was basically the last point in what Bob Mueller's part in the process was, which he delivers this entire, who knows how long this thing is. It could be 1,000 pages long. I don't know. But then the first step in the process after that is the Attorney General then gives us what we got on Sunday, which is basically his kind of summary of what the charges were, or whatever, or what, I guess the main points of interest, and then if there's any action taken. In this case, no crimes, no action taken. The next point is this is how it kind of lays out in the DOJ order for special counsel, is that if it's in the public interest, and this is obviously in the public interest because everyone wants to know, if it's a big enough issue, then it gives some leeway to the Attorney General that he can, I guess, go through and heavily redact and pick out the things that aren't too invasive on people's privacy and then release that stuff to the public. That's what we're waiting for now. He did say in his summary that it is in the public interest, so we're now just kind of in a holding pattern waiting to get whatever else is left. It doesn't matter what we get submitted, it'll never be enough for some people. It'll never be enough for a vast majority of the media. It'll never be enough for the Democrats. They'll continue, as you said earlier, to push that hardcore, we'll never know. That's what they'll say, Who knows? We think the president's guilty, and they'll keep that through to 2020.
I mean, meanwhile, we had more evidence to suggest things that, that Obama may have been complicit in when it comes to, Benghazi and Solyndra and, the IRS tax scandal.
Fast and Furious.
All of these things that there was actually information there to suggest that. Meanwhile, we got over it. It's a new day.
I know.
We're not obsessing over it still.
The only thing I'm curious about is this obstruction stuff. Mm-hmm. And that is the clarification that I want to see. That's the additional information. It's the other stuff, it pretty seems like it's a pretty hard no that he wasn't involved in the collusion stuff. I'm more interested in their obstruction case.
Well, and that's why, of course, the Democrats are interested, because if you can get 10,000 pages of documents and raw materials, you're going to be able to find something that's going to look embarrassing. If you've ever seen any episode of the wonderful television show Suits,
the documentary
series Suits, that's what they do all the time. They always get they're always in the corner, and they're everything's going against them, and then they get 1,000 pages, and one of the brilliant genius minds scans through and finds one sentence that activates one clause, and they win the lawsuit. That is what they're looking for. If they go through this and they get all the raw materials, of course they'll find something where some campaign official did something dumb, or Trump said something he shouldn't have, or whatever the thing was. And then they'll use that as a political weapon to go after the president and try to take him out for 2020. I mean, they have no interest. They know he didn't do anything wrong at this point. They have no interest in actually trying to find that. I think they just want to find that thing that they can latch onto, that can appear in campaign commercials and do all the things that are supposed to have the most impact. And I think in a lot of ways, the fervor over this investigation actually helps Trump quite a bit here. It would have been think of this alternate world for a second, where the investigation is going on and nothing comes out and there's no additional reporting. We don't really know anything. And then on Friday, they release all of it at once, meaning the 6 campaign officials with Trump all get indicted on the same day. Manafort and all of this all happens on the same day, and all of it comes out at once with the 25 Russians and all these other things. In a way, it would have had a lot more impact. It would have been holy crap. It would have gone from nothing happened there, no one had done anything wrong, to, whoa, 6 people from the campaign, and what's going on? It would take time to sift through that. The media was so obsessed with it for every little detail. The fact that Paul Manafort, did something wrong and it was completely dissociated from Russia, but that seems like ancient history. Everyone's already forgotten about it. The fact that Michael Flynn lied to the FBI is so ancient. Was it this century? Was it this? I have no idea anymore. So kind of the way they rolled this out, their obsession actually, I think, let them down in some ways, because this, the investigation did find some real things. Most of it, though, was with Russia, which is what it was tasked to find.
What's crazy is, in another alternate world, if you just go back in time and you whisper to the president, "Don't fire Comey," this would have been over a long time ago. Because if it's really a closed and shut case like this, that they couldn't find any information linking him to Russia, this is done. It's over with. Last year. It's put to bed, it's done. And there's no obstruction to even talk about. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. You made the point earlier about the Democrats, still trying to use this. You are going to give me a face on this still.
Okay. I'll try.
Okay. I've got to tell you, the way that I see the Democrats still using this, you saw Bob Francis. You saw him on Saturday, the day before the report, or the day after the report came out, standing up in front of an audience telling them that the president had, that there was knowledge that he had collusion with Russia. I mean, it's so dishonest.
Yep.
And what he's up against is so dishonest. I'm about to get me a red hat.
Oh, wow.
I'm that done with it. I'm that done with it. And it's not because I love President Trump, but it's just because you're up against a party, it seems like an entire party, who they're just going to use things that are complete false statements and sell them to the useful idiots in their audience.
And I think it's important to step back and think about what is the purpose of that. Because I think it's going to have that effect on a lot of people who are just going to want to be like, even if they're skeptical of Trump, just be like, screw it, I'm so sick of these people. But remember, what they're doing now is not designed to get you. It's designed to get a Democratic primary voter, someone who's much different than anyone in this building. And when you're looking at, all they want is toughness. They want him to go after it no matter what. They want to promise that they're going to impeach him. They want them to go as far as possible to please that left-wing activist side to get those votes early on. Making that transition back to normal conversation afterwards is going to be challenging, and something that Trump can absolutely take advantage of.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute. I really think.
Yeah.
Those of you watching on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, if you're listening, you're about to miss out on our Avenatti conversation. Yeah, sucks for you. But if you are a member of Blaze TV, you can watch Overtime. Go to blazetv.com, use promo code NEWS, and get $10 off of your annual subscription. I mean, I'm just saying, that's when all the rules are thrown out the window, and we're about to talk about Avenatti. And Jussie Smollett's lawyer.
I know Trump doesn't drink, but this is the day to start.